What's going on? What's going on, everybody? It is the Only Sports Podcast. I'm Will. That's Casino. I can't even say what we were just talking about. I won't even make a joke about it because we had to restart because of it.
We're almost 20 minutes into our streaming, and we've tried to start this a couple times.
It was funny, but it can't be on the podcast. How you doing today, Casino?
I'm fine.
We're one day away from my birthday. I decided to wear this shirt.
Oh shit! Yeah,
show a
it's
little
your birthday.
skin.
See, I told you I would forget. I never get you anything for your birthday.
That's true. 33 is the new 21, which is why I'm wearing this shirt. I do have one button, but you know what?
Unbutton it. No, just do it.
It's unbuttoned now. It's
There it
unbuttoned
is.
now. So if anybody's main complaint about this show was we weren't showing enough skin, your complaint has been answered because here you go. More chest, more fun. That's what I always say. But Casino, we released our last podcast on Tuesday, Wednesday. That feels like a fucking month ago with how much shit has happened since then. We're recording this on a Friday. Last night we had the NFL draft. We had a bunch of NHL playoff games, only one NBA playoff game. We have two more tonight that could be series ending. We have Grizzlies, Lakers. Lakers, if they win, they advance. Kings, Warriors tonight. If Warriors win, they advance. But the big news...
And then we got 4 hockey games that all could advance as well tonight.
Jesus. We're blessed with sports right now because we're not even going to talk about NBA or NHL first. We're going to talk about NFL, which had its draft last night. But then even before the draft, finally, Lamar Jackson signed with the Ravens for a...
What are they fucking doing?
I will talk about it, but he got a $260 million 5-year contract, includes $185 million guaranteed. Lamar Jackson will now be the highest player in the league at $52 million per year. So this is my question to you, Casino. You just asked it. What are the Ravens doing? Is this a good move?
Hell no. It's not a good move. He's a good player. We've talked about it. He's a good player. He can throw the football. He's above average thrower. He's a great runner. He's a good quarterback. Definitely a good quarterback. Top 10 easy. You could even squeeze him into the top 6, 5, when he's healthy. And
I would take him over Herbert. I don't know why everybody just acts like Herbert is a top 5. I've seen more from Lamar Jackson than I ever have Herbert, and people act like
that's totally fine. And so, no, he's a great player, but the guaranteed this organization has been good for so many years. They're like a Packers, they're like a New England. They're teams that are massively great structured front offices, and they know how to run the league. That's why they're relevant all the time. Everybody's like, Baltimore. They're just like the Steelers. Tough defense, hard to play against. You don't want to play against them, especially on the road. So, this organization has been always great. I don't understand this move. I really I don't get it. That is so much money. And I joked about it of saying, can't wait to see him blow out his knee or something like that, or something, whatever I said. And you're like, that's bad to say. And I was like, yeah, it is. But he doesn't give a shit. He's guaranteed $180+ million fucking dollars. He doesn't care if he blows out his knee to where he can't play football again. Yeah, that's sad. It's what he loves to do. It's his passion. He could go and pick up golf or water polo. I don't know, something. But he can't play football anymore. But it doesn't matter. The dude's $180 million guaranteed.
Almost 190. Yeah,
almost 190. Yeah, he just doesn't. He's not going to care. So he's got his money. Yes, he's going to come out and play hard. Hopefully that they haven't had any issues, behind the scenes where it's like, they were kind of giving me the reach around for a while. I'm not going to play as hard. I got paid, So why should I play really hard for a organization that's kind of screwed with me and didn't want to give me what I wanted, and they're only going to take me because they couldn't get rid of me?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm concerned for the organization on making this move. Is it going to be nice though? Because he's got oh my gosh, who just went to Baltimore? Who just signed? OBJ.
OBJ.
So I'm sure he's really excited about that. And they're gonna probably play real well together because he's got the running game, and now he's got a good wide receiver. I don't want to say elite anymore because the dude's come off of 2 tears.
Well,
We don't know what he's gonna be like.
they also just drafted a wide receiver last night. They
Right.
drafted the like one of the top 3 wide receivers in this draft, who is Zay Flowers.
Zay Flowers,
Zay
yeah.
Flowers. I was like, this guy has big play potential written all over him. I want to see him go to like an interesting team. And Baltimore Ravens, like, what is a more interesting team to be an offensive weapon and then fucking Baltimore?
It's a very interesting move, and I think they're going to be just fine with it. So we'll see how that goes though.
Yeah. So I'm right there with you in terms of somebody, because I get all my football news from Twitter and Reddit. Somebody on Reddit made a really good fucking point because somebody was doing the whole like, oh, he's now the highest paid player in the NFL. Like, who needs an agent? And this guy made a good point. He said it's $10 million more than they offered him a year ago. What a fucking waste of time. I'd rather have 175 now than 185 million a year from now, which is a great point. Like, everybody's praising him for being like, oh, he didn't need an agent. Now he's the highest paid player. But it's like, yeah, he also didn't get paid for an entire year, the equivalent of what he would have got paid a year ago. So he basically wasted. If you think about it, this is a 6-year contract that he signed for 5 years because the Ravens basically got a whole year where they didn't have to pay him shit. Like,
that's a good point. That's smart.
The Ravens held out for this entire year, and all they had to pay was $10 million more than they were originally going to offer him. Like, why is everybody acting like Lamar Jackson got away with this like a bandit or whatever? He signed a basic 6-year deal where he got $10 million more than the Ravens were offering him. And it's not like he made some great fucking deal. Everybody knows quarterbacks every year who sign new contracts are going to now be the new highest paid player in the NFL, right? Then I'm sure Herbert, I'm sure Burrow, I'm sure whatever quarterback next after that is coming up, it's just gonna, dude, Daniel Jones is getting fucking $40 million a year. Like,
insane.
What are we talking about? Like, as far as the Ravens go, everybody was saying we give the Ravens all the credit, but they haven't put anything around Lamar Jackson to be successful. Well, they just drafted a first-round wide receiver. They took what many consider the best wide receiver on this free agent market. They signed him. He's got, Gus the Bus and Mark Andrews as his tight end and running back. So he's got an above average. This
team can be really good. This team can be really good. I mean, the only thing that scares me is a long-term thing. Like, you're really cutting into a lot of your team's pay. Heavy.
A lot.
Yeah.
Dude, a lot.
And that's the one thing that I like. I wish all sports had a tight cap on. Like, I understand, like, okay, pay them a shit ton of money, that's fine, but I wish they had a tighter cap. Like with hockey, they haven't raised that cap in for fucking ever. And I think that's why there's so much parity in the league right now, is that hockey, all these teams are so good right now. And I truly think that's because, this team can't buy 3 good players or 3 superstar players. They have to buy 2 superstar players. So that third goes to another team. And then it's evenly dispersed, and it makes it much more interesting. So I don't know. I struggle with the overpaying. I get it. He's a good quarterback. Is he worth the highest paid football player? No.
Well, also, you made a good point with the hockey thing. In NBA, they made a what I think was a genius idea in doing the where if you sign your second contract with the team you were drafted on, they can sign you to a max contract, right? So it incentivizes players to be like, listen, if you stay with the team that's drafted you, you'll make more money because if you want to go to other teams to build, like the big three, like the Celtics and the Heat did and stuff like
Yeah,
that,
super team.
the league saw this is where the NBA is going, where all these guys are friends. They all know each other. All of them are just going to end up on one team, and we're going to have three super teams, and then none of the other teams are going to be competitive, and it's going to be bad for the league, right? So the
Right.
league said, we're going to make this new thing. You can make the most money possible if you stay with the
Stay
team
with
that's
your team. And I
drafted
like
you.
that. I do like that.
I honestly think that's what the NFL should get to the point of doing a little bit, which is just be like, for quarterbacks, you're
I don't.
separate.
They
You're
would have
separate
to.
from the cap.
You're right. They would have to figure that out though, because there's too many players on a football team compared to an NBA team. So I don't know. But
Well,
anyway,
that's why it's easier on hockey too.
But-
It's like less. I mean, football teams, we're talking about 53 guys. Like that's so many fucking players.
So let me ask you this. Do you think this is the genius of his mom being the super agent that was never picked up by players? Or do you think the Ravens just had no other choice and they said, fuck it, we have to give him what he wants?
I honestly think if you look at it, like I really think it was the Jalen Hurts contract. I think the Jalen Hurts contract was Lamar Jackson and his mom going to the Ravens and being like, we want this, but a little bit more. And then I mean, you look at that contract, it's the Jalen Hurts contract structured differently, but it's pretty much the same amount of money with like a $10 million difference. Like, that's it. But
Yeah,
also,
definitely structured very differently.
yeah.
I mean, Jalen Hurts is all backloaded, and this one they're just like, here's all the fucking money in the world. Have
Yeah.
fun. Go play golf and water polo.
It's also
I don't know
weird.
why going to water polo. I don't know.
Well, the guaranteed money in water polo dried up years ago. There's none of it left. See what I did there? See what I did there?
Because we're in a drought. See what I did there?
But in terms, this is my issue where it comes to quarterback money, and we talked about this. I just said it, where it's like every year the new hot quarterback's going to get like more money. Right now, like Burrow, Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, those are the three. And, like Matthew Stafford, those are the four quarterbacks that deserve the most money because they've shown I have this team around me. And with my ability, I can take this team to the Super Bowl. So Burrow should get paid all the money in the world. So should Hurts. So should Mahomes. Stafford, maybe a little less because he's obviously older than those guys. But then you get to people like Lamar Jackson. You get to people like Dak Prescott even, or Justin Herbert. And it's like, you three have done absolutely nothing in the playoffs. We've never seen you have a good playoff game. And we're still talking about you as if you're Mahomes, Hurts, or Burrow, which are three quarterbacks in the past 3 years we've literally seen have great playoff performances and lead their teams to a Super Bowl, and in Mahomes' case, win it. It's just weird that we give money to quarterbacks who are good quarterbacks, but then when it gets to the postseason, they suck. And it's just like, oh, that doesn't matter. They're still great quarterbacks. And it's like, I thought the point of this was to win. Like, it's just fun. I don't know. That's always been weird to me. Like Lamar Jackson, he's 1-3 in the playoffs and has just had like abysmal performances. I always remember
it's the Tony Romo effect.
Yeah.
That's what I call it.
I always remember that game. I think it was his first or second playoff game against the Chargers where he was like, it looked like he was just a completely different player. And the Chargers weren't even like a good defensive team that year. It was just, I don't know. again, as a Eagles fan, as a Patriots fan, we've seen quarterbacks have success in the postseason. So I don't know if we view it differently than other teams, but like we were talking about, the Ravens have only been a team since 1996. Since
It's
1996,
crazy. It feels like they've been around. I mean,
yeah.
much longer. I
Well,
mean,
they were the
they're
Baltimore Colts.
ever since I can remember, they've been the Ravens. I mean, born in
Yeah,
'90,
it
showing
was
my
like
age.
Baltimore Colts, and then they became the Browns, and then they moved to Baltimore, and then they restarted the Browns. I don't fucking know. It doesn't make any sense. But
Yeah.
since 1996, this franchise, Baltimore Ravens, they've won 2 Super Bowls, and they've always felt like they were, I think they've been to 3 or 4, but they've always just felt like, yeah, one of the teams that you can always just pencil in to be like, they're going to be in the playoffs. And they're in one of the toughest divisions in sports. It's not like they're in a shit division, so that's why they keep going. Like they're in a division
Right.
with the Steelers, with the Bengals, who have always been pretty good, and then with the Browns, who are
And
a
the
dumpster
Steelers,
fire.
again, like
But
so I was saying, is another organization that just is always top tier, so always good.
yeah, but now
Well,
let's move
last thing I
from
want to say
Lamar
about that, I got
Jackson.
a
Oh,
question for you. Do you think like Lamar and his mom were having that whole show me the money thing with like Cuba Gooding Jr. and Tom Cruise, or they're just yelling on the phone, show me the
yeah,
money,
I
just
think that
back and
was. I
forth?
think Tom Cruise was John Harbaugh in the other end of the phone, just screaming into it, and then. But I think I let's segue over to the draft, Casino, because we
Yeah,
talked
that's a
about
good
who the
one. Oh,
Ravens drafted. Did you end up watching the draft last night, or did you
I
watch the
watched the
Celtics game or the Knights game?
I watched the draft until the Knights game started, which was convenient because it was started right after the Patriots did their pick. So I was happy.
I had 2 TVs on. One was on the Celtics
Oh,
Hawks game, which was
I love it.
much more
I love that you
entertaining.
can afford 2 TVs in your front room. Good for you. Good for
Yeah.
you.
No, this was at work. I was at
No,
work,
I'm out here
Casino.
struggling. Yeah, sure.
Don't try to steal my blue collar, white collar thing, okay? I'm
Uh-uh.
literally,
No.
this shirt is blue collar. This is a blue collar shirt.
I don't
This
even
is a
have a
collar.
collar. I'm so broke I don't even have one. All right?
But
Windows
so
7, remember this. Windows 7, that's what I'm running right now. Okay? Okay.
also,
Continue.
I did the same exact thing as you. Thank you to the Golden Knights for immediately almost winning that game so I could switch right back to the draft.
Oh,
Like I
yeah, it
was
was
like, "Oh, this game's
fantastic.
over," almost like 5 minutes into it. Like I'm going back to the draft.
I
And
watched the whole game.
that's what I did. But so just right
Called
off the
it.
bat, Casino, uh we have Bryce Young, who everyone assumed, rightfully so, was going over number 1 overall to the Carolina Panthers. That's why they traded the pick, blah, 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 blah. So I don't think any surprise there. Maybe a little surprising. This
Oh,
draft's,
again, he's shorter and you know, you
dude, he
talked about
looks
that.
so tiny.
I mean, he's 5'10" is what he's his height. 5'10", 204. I mean, and then CJ Stroud, he's what is it? 6'3". So, yeah, I mean, again, I think they had to pick Bryce Young, but we might be seeing like a whole Kyler Murray thing. So buckle up.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm right there with you. I'm agree with you where it's the pick they had to make, but just seeing him walk on stage, I mean, Goodell looked like he was fucking twice his size. Like, and
Mhm.
Goodell, he's not some giant. He's just like an average guy. So he even looks like towering over this guy. And you just think like, I think of who the Eagles got, which is Jalen Carter or whatever. Dude, that guy's like, he's 6'3", 315 pounds. We're both bigger than Bryce Young. If this guy comes running at us full speed and tackles us and we're both wearing pads, it's going to hurt like a motherfucker. Now imagine we're 50 pounds lighter and like 3 inches shorter. Like, how's that not going to hurt more? You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Right.
just don't know
Well, I'm
how.
roughly around the same weight as Bryce Young, but it's all fat.
So maybe more cushion for the pushing is what they say, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the
That's your birthday slogan, right?
that is. It's happy birthday to me, by the way. Thank you. My birthday's
Yeah,
tomorrow.
you're welcome. Yeah.
Turning 21. Excited about it.
Mhm. Yeah.
So this draft, that was the obvious one. I hate when teams are like they have the number one pick and they still let the clock run down. Like there's any anticipation that they're going to do something different. Like
Right.
everybody knew this was in. Immediately start the draft with like the number one pick is Bryce Young because this shit still goes fucking 4 hours. Like
Yeah, for
why?
31. Yeah, it's crazy.
They finally over the past couple years brought down how long you have to take the pick. Now it's at 8 minutes. But remember, it used to be at like fucking 15 minutes, and it would be like, for what? Why are we waiting this long? Dude, make it 5 minutes per pick. You
I
should have
gotcha.
5 guys on your board and then just rank them the next one up. Like, here you go. Like, I don't get why this shit takes so long. But the first pick was obvious. The second pick, a little bit surprising. The Texans were projected to get a quarterback, but then it was like, which quarterback did they take? They end up taking CJ
Anthony Richards
Stroud.
to CJ Stroud. Yeah, I would take CJ Stroud.
I think I would too. Even though the reports came out where he had like the one of the lowest scores on that Wonderlic,
I
like
don't give a shit
quarterback
about that
test.
test.
I don't
And
really
then here's
either.
the Texans move up again for the number 3. They get an edge rusher in Will Anderson Jr. I like that move.
Which actually,
So
that's the one I wanted to talk about because
I like
I
that.
wanted to talk about with how much they fucking gave up to pick this. Did you
Right.
see?
No, I did, but I like the pick itself, but the trade is absolutely insanity. The trade, so they traded the number 3 overall pick and 4th round selection, number 105 to the Houston Texans for the number 12 overall pick, the number 33 overall selection, and a 2024 first and 3rd round selection. That's a lot of shit.
Dude, they did
That's a
that to
lot.
move up. They moved up what, like 12 spots or whatever? To move up 12 spots, they gave away 2 first and a second. What? Like, if you're the Texans and you're willing to give up that much for this guy, why wouldn't you use that on a quarterback? What team besides like maybe the
That's a good
Chiefs
point.
and the
But maybe
Eagles are
maybe
not going to think about
Maybe
two first
they
rounds
were
and a
really
second?
just wanting the CJ Stroud. They were fine with CJ Stroud. They didn't want Bryce Young. That's who they got. They got who they wanted in CJ Stroud. So that was another thing is they kept talking about like the players that were sitting there and sitting there and waiting to get picked. And everybody was like, oh, they may not get picked this round and whatnot. It's you know what? Just because like you're the number 3 or 4 quarterback doesn't mean automatically as soon as those are up, you're the next one on the block. People have other needs. Teams have other needs. So if they don't need a quarterback or they think they want to work with the one that they have, you're not going to pick, even if you're projected to go in the first round. You know,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I saw a few of those players waiting there and waiting to get picked that were just like super sad and whatnot. I'm like, well, hey, like
Well, I hate
shit
the
happens.
I
Like,
hate the
I
all
would
the players in the draft
mainly I'm
thing.
talking about the one I saw that was kind of bugging me because he kept looking like he was muttering under his breath was Will Lewis
Will
or
Levis.
Will Levis, not Lewis, Will Levis. And every time they showed to him, like he's just sitting there like, it's like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, you're not going to probably get picked.
Dude, that
Not
guy,
right now.
I would bet money on it. That guy has bus written all over it. You
Oh,
can
all
just
day.
tell. You could
Oh
just
yeah,
tell.
his attitude is already showing it. Can't
Yep.
stand him. Can't stand it. So
But
it made me laugh that every time they kept showing to him and they wasn't getting picked, I was like, sorry.
so next up we had Anthony Richardson. He gets drafted to the Colts. This guy is the quintessential pick in the draft when it comes to quarterbacks, where it's like he might not be everything he's going to be now, but if he can reach the potential of what he could be, like this is a star in this league kind of thing. And he went to the perfect situation. He went to the
Just
Colts where their head coach was the offensive coordinator for Jalen Hurts. Very similar kind of playing styles to what they had in college. Apparently, you were hearing
obviously
all these things with the teams that
he's
met with
heavy.
Anthony
He's
Richardson?
244. Do you think that that's going to be an issue?
No, because I don't think it's an issue because he moves around a lot in the pocket. He doesn't like take off and run, but he's one of those guys, kind of like a Russell Wilson, who's always like moving around to avoid getting hit. There's not really a bunch of clips you can see of him just getting fucking rocked, right? But he he has this going for him, which is apparently there are a bunch of reports coming out where when he met with other teams walked away being like, we're not going to draft him because obviously he's in the top 4, but we're rooting for him. And he comes off like basically Jalen Hurts, right? Which is like, even if you don't like the Eagles or like Alabama, you're rooting singularly for this one guy because he's just easy to root for, right? We've always said that about like
Right.
Burrow. Like, it doesn't matter if you like the Bengals or not. Like, how can you not like Joe Burrow, right? He just comes off like a cool guy. Next up, we had just a couple picks. Witherspoon to the Seahawks, good pick. Paris Johnson to the Cardinals, good pick. Tyree Wilson, reach, but that's what the Raiders do, right? And
I don't know. I like that one for them. I think that I think they needed that. So
yeah, I just think they could have got him later. Now, next one, the pick that I think most people are like, what the fuck are you doing? The Falcons of all teams draft a running back,
You're
the one
just
I
bitter.
wanted, Bijan Robinson,
So
when they literally have already like a top 5 rushing offense. They have Cordell Patterson, they have the other guy whose name I'm blanking on, but they have like 2,000-yard rushers already. They have one of the worst defenses in the NFL, and Desmond Ridder at quarterback, who we watched a couple games of last year, like never ever jumped off the screen ever. Okay, so now we move from that pick of Bijan Robinson to my Eagles casino, who trade up one pick. They lose a 4th round that was a compensatory pick, so really it was kind of like a free pick anyways, and it's in the 4th round. Who gives a shit? So
right.
they move up to take what I was watching the ESPN draft feed, and Mel Kiper was losing his mind, being like, "This is the best player on my big board," like, and they're getting him at number 9. Obviously, the reason why he was at number 9 was because of maybe attitude and off the field issues, where there was a report that came out where they said 3 teams in front of the Eagles, so 3 of the top 8 teams drafting in this draft didn't even have this guy on their board, despite him being number 1. This seems oddly, eerily similar to the whole Warren Sapp thing. Remember, Warren Sapp was like projected to be a top 5 pick at defensive tackle, but he had off the field issues. I think back then it was like literally he was just like, he got suspended for smoking weed or something dumb like that. I'll have to recheck what it was, but
Right.
I mean, that feels eerily similar to this, which is like a potentially generational player at this position being overlooked because of personal issues, nothing to do with on the field issues. Thoughts on this pick, Casino?
I think he's the best pick in the draft. I mean, you're right. Generational player. You nailed it. It was funny though. As soon as he came up and they were talking about it, and they talked about the car crash and all that with kids dying and whatnot, Brittany goes, "He's a murderer." My wife, and I was like, she goes, "Man, we really like our sports athletes, don't we?" And I was like, "He was acquitted. He was fine. Like everything's good." But
he was. What was even the story with that? He was like at the scene of the crash or something, or was he the one driving?
I think he was the one driving, and they were trying to like pin him on like he was driving under some sort of influence or driving fast. They were trying to do whatever they could to pin in, and maybe he was, but long story long, he's acquitted. So it's just like nothing came from that, at least to my knowledge. I don't think there's anything left on that. All my reports on it, like he's good, but generational player, A plus plus plus. This is a great pick. I know you wanted Robinson, but I think you got the better end of this because there are other running backs out there, and I think you guys did all right. I mean, you had a chance for your second pick in the first round on pick 30 to pick a running back. You didn't. You went with an edge rusher, which we'll just talk about him, Nolan Smith. Don't dislike it. I like that, you got rid of a few guys. On that interior, and you need to fill that spot again. So I'm okay with this move and not going for a running back.
The Eagles drafting, I believe he is a what is it? Was he an edge rusher or was he a linebacker? I cannot remember.
Nolan Smith?
Yes, he's an edge rusher, correct?
Yeah, he's edge rusher, yes.
So now the running joke is that the Eagles are just the Georgia Bulldogs, like what you graduate to, because the last like 2-3 drafts, literally the only colleges we've drafted any players from have either been Alabama or Georgia.
And you know what's happening? Those are the teams winning the national championship. You're fucking doing just fine. No, I like the pick. He gained a little bit weight. I mean, he's only 230. Oh, he's almost 240. But I mean, yeah, I think you gain a little bit more. And man, you got a solid edge rusher right there for you. I like your picks.
Yeah,
I like the Eagles picks first round. I think you guys did really well.
Yeah, I think both of them are steals. Both of them are players we were projected to get, but the issue was we were projected not to get them because we were projected to want them, not projected to get them because the analysts didn't think either player would fall to us at the spots we were picking at. And I mean, both of them did. So I'm happy with it. Like you said, Georgia's the best defensive team in college football, has been for the past 4 or 5 years. So give me all the best defensive players from the best defense and just bring it to my team. And I'm fucking fine with that. Like, why would I not be?
By the way, this is the dog that's always mad at everything and everyone. Doesn't he look so innocent, right?
But he's kind of like the third co-host, and then I guess our kids would be the fourth and fifth. But let's continue to move on. So I, as an Eagles fan, especially with Bijan Robinson already off the board by the time it got to Jalen Carter, this was the pick I wanted, or I wanted either the next two guys, offensive tackles. So I'm happy with this. I think the Eagles are a perfect organization to kind of get somebody with off-field issues because I feel like they have a really good foundation, structure, players to kind of like whip him into shape. So,
but and then moving on from there, you guys always do good with tackles. The offensive tackles going first to Chicago, Darnell Wright, great pick for them. And then the Titans get Peter Skornowski.
So
he's another ski.
We're kind of just going to start jumping around right here because not all these are like notable or whatever. With the Titans, do you think, because obviously we just talked about it, Will Levis and Hendon Hooker are the two like kind of big name quarterbacks still left on the board. Of all the teams that have quarterbacks or drafted them in this draft, who do you think Will Levis and Hendon Hooker go to? What teams are left that you think need quarterbacks? Because for me, I think Tennessee is one of these two.
I would agree. Tennessee would be one of mine. I don't know. I mean, the quarterback carousel kind of happened, and everybody's kind of happy with what they have now. And the ones that needed quarterbacks desperately got their quarterbacks. You know, the Jets got Rodgers. Houston, they got their pick. Carolina got their pick.
Yep.
Like
the Colts got their pick.
I really think there's
only 3 left. Do you agree with me on this? So obviously we just said Titans, and then I think Commanders and Buccaneers, right? Like those are the three that's left. Maybe Saints as well.
No, I think the Saints are happy with what they got, but no, I can see those three. I think those are good three possibilities.
Yeah, because who is the Bucks starting quarterback next year? It's going to be. Is Jameis Winston still on the Saints, or did
That's
he
who
go
I
to the
was.
Bucks?
I think he went to the Bucks in that. You're
Uh,
asking me this, and
yeah,
I
I
was
don't have
not
this written
prepared for
down.
this. Yeah,
But we can move on to, let's see, the Packers move up to draft a giant white guy from Iowa. So that was right on brand for the Packers. Then Steelers, offensive tackle. Jets get a good pick. One of my favorite guys in the draft, Will McDonald. Commanders get a cornerback. And so do your Patriots after
I'm
what
happy with who
the
they got. Yeah,
100th
he's
year
playing
in
for
a
New Orleans.
row of the Patriots trading back their first round pick. But then they get what was one of the top 3 corners in this draft, I think,
I
with
think he was the
Christian
best.
Gonzalez.
I like him. I like him the best out of all of them.
I did too.
I
Yeah.
watch Oregon fairly often. I have a lot of friends who are Oregon fans. I have friends who live up in Portland and Eugene who are alumni from Oregon. So I've always had a soft spot for the Oregon Ducks. I like them. I like that organization up there. And so that being said, as I watched a lot of these games, and every time I watched a Ducks game, I would probably say I probably watched 5. I went out of my way to watch about 5 of their games this year.
Yeah.
And man, every game that I watched, he was very impressive. I really like him. Um,
I
yeah,
would have
I could
taken
I
I
couldn't
would
have
have
been
taken
happier.
Gonzalez over the guy the Commanders took. The cornerback Forbes. I would have taken
Yeah,
Gonzalez before Forbes.
yeah, that was
So,
my concern. So I was like, shit. I know that they needed a corner. I was like, all right, if they take the corner, I didn't really want Forbes. Nothing against him, but I know we need to start filling that role. And Belichick is a defensive coach, and he would probably go defense first over wide receivers. He's never picked wide receivers early. When he does, like N'Keal Harry, that didn't work out so well, did it? But I was, like for me though, I was really looking into. Ooh, stop. I wanted Quentin, the wide receiver, but I was
yeah.
like, if we don't get him, that's fine.
Trust me,
But
you do not want wide receivers from TCU. As a fan of the Eagles who drafted Jalen Rager, you
fair
don't
enough.
want TCU running backs or
That's
wide
fair.
receivers.
But I was very happy because I thought Washington was going to take this corner, and
So did I.
especially with why am I blanking? Devin McCourty
Yeah,
retiring. I was like, we need to fill that spot. It's a veteran spot. We need a top end cornerback, and we got the one that I wanted. I'm really happy with that. And Forbes, he's going to be a good cornerback, especially playing for a team like Washington who needs more help back there. He's definitely going to be a shining star out of a lot of those players. The Patriots, they got more defensive guys, that will shine just as bright. But I'm glad that they filled a high end position with a high end player. So
yeah,
I was happy with that.
I agree with
Very
you.
happy, very happy.
Now,
Couldn't
now
couldn't be
let's
upset.
let's move on to the team that drafted number 12 and number 18, the Lions, who at 12 drafted Jamar Gibbs, the running back from
Running
Alabama.
back again, too early for a running back, and I don't know.
Well, and then they drafted Jack Campbell, linebacker from Iowa. 2 picks in the first round that were players projected to go late second, early third. They reach on both picks and get these guys in the first round when both these players were projected to be there when the Lions drafted in the second and third round. So the
I mean,
only
I do like the Jake Campbell pick. I like his size. I like his speed for his size. He's a good player. But again, I think this early, a bit of a reach. You may not have got him back. You may not have got him on the back end going into the later rounds. I don't know
yeah,
where their next pick is.
that
They
pick.
got a pick on the 34. You could have possibly picked him up on 34, and then they also have a 34 or a 48 and 55. Like they've got 3 picks in the next round. I'm sure you could have probably got him in one of those. But
I'm less mad about the Campbell pick because I feel like Detroit, it used to be the Browns until they got Watson, but Detroit has always been kind of the team everybody roots for, right? Even if you're not a fan of them, you always want to see the Lions do well.
mhm.
So I think Jamar Gibbs, I think of everybody in the first round, this is the worst pick. Bijan Robinson was projected to maybe be the first running back taken in the first round because like you said, in this era of the NFL, you don't take running backs this early, right?
No.
Unless they're a super generational talent like a Saquon Barkley, like Bijan Robinson is projected to be. And
See that,
even
and I
then,
didn't want to burst your bubble on that. I know that that's where you think he's going to be, but I was like, all right, yeah, let's go with that. Let's get Robinson.
yeah,
Sure.
but still, Robinson was projected literally to go from anywhere from pick 10 to pick 31, right? Like there was no consensus on where he should go. This Jamar Gibbs, he was not projected to maybe even go in the second round. So what the fuck are you doing, Lions, where you're drafting this guy at number 12?
Oh, this is the Lions being the
Nobody
Lions, man.
no other team was thinking, let's get a running back in the first round that is not named Bijan Robinson, right? And it's like, unless the Lions were like, we're betting our entire franchise that Bijan is going to fall to us at 12. And then when he got picked by Atlanta, they were as surprised as everybody else and was just like, well, we only were thinking running back at 12. So the one we wanted's gone. Let's just get, blah, blah, blah. But they just paid all this money to David Montgomery to be their running back. So again, your defense was so shit last year. How are you not drafting this entire draft all defense? You had a top 5 offense last year. Like you signed a guy to replace the one guy you lost. I just ugh.
Bad pick.
Next up, we had Kaleja Cansey. I don't know. Again,
Does he play in the hockey?
names have never been names have never been our strong suit on here. But next up, Casino, the pick I want to talk about, Jackson Smith, a name I will not try to pronounce in fear of getting canceled on this podcast. Jackson Smith, the wide receiver from Ohio State. Does this, if this guy is, again, he was projected to be the best, if not the best or a top 3 best wide receiver in a pretty good wide receiver draft. If this guy is good, are the Seahawks with Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and then this guy, do they now have the scariest wide receiver group in the NFL?
I want to see how things shape up. I mean, there's still time before the season starts, but definitely a top 3 if this guy pans out to be what he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And if you have Smith play anything like he did last year, yeah, they could be a solid team.
Well, even because this guy played with Ohio State, which has Marvin Harrison Jr., who is like projected to be potentially the number 1 pick next year, right? Where he's just the wide receiver. Everybody's like, this guy is next level. Like he's going to come in, immediately be the number 1 wide receiver, a top 5 wide receiver in the league. So for this guy to be on that team and shine as bright as he did with a generational wide receiver on the other side, like I think that shows you how good this guy is, where he still stood out when he's playing opposite. People are calling like, the next Jerry Rice kind of player. So then we had a run on wide receivers. Chargers take Quentin Johnston from TCU, the guy you wanted the Patriots to take. Again, the Chargers are taking more offensive weapons to help Herbert out. Like, okay, but again, when you have great offenses, like I feel like those always carry over year to year. I don't feel
Pretty
like
close
there's
to it.
ever, yeah, I don't know. Just feels like should have gone defense. Next up, we had Zay Flowers, the guy from Boston College, who I really liked, going to the Ravens. I think this is a great fucking pick. Jordan Addison going to the Vikings. Again, I'm still scarred as an Eagles fan with USC and TCU wide receivers, so I don't know what to think about this. I don't trust Pat 12 wide receivers. Then we had cornerback Giants, and then the player I want to talk about, Dalton Kincaid, going from Utah, the tight end, to Buffalo. People are saying this was one of the best picks of the draft, and seeing this guy's tape, like, dear Lord, I watched some highlight reels on YouTube because everybody was talking about how great this guy is. I think
That's
him on
fair.
Buffalo is going to be fucking scary.
No, I agree, and he's going to probably play very well on the team, especially pairing up next to Knox. But with that being said, you have Knox, you have a tight end, and they do have
Yep.
other pressing issues and spots to fill. I don't know if I would have taken a tight end this early for them, but I
It's
mean,
kind of the San
but
Diego thing, right? Which is like,
fair.
you already have a great offense. What are you doing?
Right. But I do like Kincaid. I think he's going to be a great player. Again, Utah play the Ducks a lot. I got to see him play a lot. So I know Utah's player, or I know this player fairly well. I watched him multiple times, probably about 3 different games. Plus, my owner of my job is like a giant Utah fan. So every time
Yeah.
they were on and he was at work after work, he was watching them.
Well,
So
Utah, especially in our lifetime of watching college football, has always had really interesting offenses.
oh
They've
yeah.
always had like fun offenses to watch.
Yeah. So no, I like this. I think he's gonna go really well up there. Opposite of Knox. I think they're gonna be that's gonna be a solid tight end duo up there. Especially if he pans out. Obviously, we gotta see if he pans out, but we don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's the
Um,
thing with all these guys, right? Like,
yeah,
none of this means
again,
anything if they're
that's the
just
whole
a
draft. Yeah.
bust. Yeah.
But I think that's a good pick for him. Panning out if he does, like that's gonna be a solid threat. And we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, and then moving on to Cowboys, I don't care about them. I'm gonna go get my kid while you talk about these next couple because whatever.
Yeah, I don't think really the end of this draft had anything to write home about. Obviously, the Nolan Smith pick falling to the Eagles. We talked about what a steal that was. Bengals Bengals getting a edge rusher as well. Saints felt weird getting a defensive tackle. I feel like almost like reading back this first round, just in my personal opinion, with the few outliers of like my team, obviously the Eagles, Casino's team, the Patriots, even though they kind of fall into what I'm talking about too. Like, besides a couple of teams, I feel like almost every one of them should have switched to what they did. Like, they win offense when their defense was bad. Like, I mean, I love the pick for the Seahawks getting Jackson Smith from Ohio State, but it's like the Seahawks had a top 3 offense pretty much the entire second half of the season, and they had one of the worst defenses. So it's like, and they had like, them and Detroit were tied most of the season for having the 31st and 32nd worst defense. So, yeah, you needed another wide receiver, but you don't think those picks could have been better used helping up the clearly worse side of football, like of your football team? I don't know. That just seems weird to me. And then you have teams like, yeah, like the Lions reaching both times pretty much. And then Falcons, I think I think it's a toss up between Falcons and Lions having the worst draft. Probably the
I
Lions.
would go with the Lions.
Yeah. I think Lions had the worst because they reached twice, but I
Well,
think the worst pick.
regardless, Campbell being a good player and a good pick for their needs, you went early on him.
Yeah. And then I was saying, while you stepped away, Casito, I feel like most teams, when looking back on this first round and kind of reading it over, most teams went offense when they should have gone defense, or went defense when it felt like they should have gone offense.
That's why I was
If
happy with the Patriots pick, is because they grabbed what they needed to grab to fill,
Yeah.
to fill a spot that went from a Pro Bowler, in my mind, future Hall of Famer, probably not, but in McCourty, one of your captains on the team, you got to fill that spot, and they went with that. So I'm happy there. But for the majority of them, you said they flip flopped, and you're scratching your head like, what the hell?
Yeah. Like, I like the Seahawks taking a cornerback, but I feel like they probably could have gone edge rusher. They maybe could have gone defensive tackle when they were picking with the second one. They could have grabbed someone like the Mozzie Smith or one of the edge rushers that ended out the first round, but they went wide receiver. But then again, we're in a passing all offense league. So maybe all these teams were like, we have a good offense now. Let's just make it better because we're going to have to outscore anybody anyways. But yeah, I don't know. So the second round starts tonight. Still a bunch of big name players on the board. I hope the Eagles can somehow get up and get that, or go up in the draft and get that safety from Alabama, maybe Joey Porter Jr. from Penn State. Those are the two guys I want. But yeah, we'll talk about the rest of the draft and anything notable that happens next episode.
It's a long shot for you. Brian Branch is going to go early.
Yeah, that's who it was. I want Branch or Joey.
I know who you're talking about because he's on my radar as well.
Yeah, he's one of the ones I'm kind of shocked with how many cornerbacks went in the first round that he didn't sneak out kind of in those last couple picks. That like maybe if I'm surprised he didn't go to like the Chiefs or the Bengals. Maybe they went edge, but I could have seen them also going defensive back. But yeah, whew. All right. Now we move over to the NBA. So for the NBA casino, we talked about it last episode. We talked about the Jimmy Butler game. And then we weren't expecting the sequel to the Jimmy Butler game.
No, we weren't expecting it, but we said that if he did it one more time, look what happened.
And he does. My plays.
Yay.
He plays 46 minutes. He scores 42 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. But really, the story of this game is the ending of it, which this game was crazy, back and forth. I think at one time in the fourth quarter, the Bucks were up by 14 and then just let this Heat team, where I don't know how they're doing this. Literally, it's Jimmy Butler and then Adebayo, Love having like kind of resurge, and then Vincent comes out of fucking nowhere and puts up 22. But the news of this game is Giannis Antetokounmpo missing, I believe, over half of his free throws. If I can pull these up right here, he goes 14.
Gotcha. Yeah, I have his stat. Oops. No, I don't have his stat.
He goes 14 to 27 from the field, and then free throw attempts, he goes, my thing's not showing.
10 for 23.
No, his free throws.
Yeah, 10 for 23.
Oh, 10 for 23. Sorry. I thought you said 20 for 23. I was like, no.
10 for 23. And that was everybody saying. It's like, oh, yeah, he lost in the game because he couldn't score. Well, I mean, kind of. I mean, even though he put up 38 points, he could have been easily over 50-point game for him. But
yeah,
he easily, with the 20 rebound, like he played really well. And Middleton had a good game. He did 33. But I remember you saying if Butler can have one of his players step up with him, they're gonna win this. Well, he had a couple. I mean, Vincent 22 points. Vincent 22. Adobio. How do you say his name? Adebayo. Thank you.
Adebayo.
He had a triple double. I mean, for crying out loud. So I mean, 100%. It's exactly what you nailed it. You said if Butler has another good performance, it doesn't even matter if Giannis has a good one. If Lopez, Middleton also have good ones, it doesn't matter. If Butler can have one more performance like he did and one person step up, which was that guy. He's running, yeah. Mom came home and now I'm just like chopped liver. So it is what it is.
Well, then not only that, but the entire Bucks team, like their players showed up. Like Middleton, like you said, 33. Lopez had 18. Holiday had 16. Giannis had almost 40. He ended with 38. But this is one of those games where if you look at the box score, you're like, how the fuck did this happen?
Oh, I'm looking at it now.
But then when you watch the game, like the Bucks completely melted down in the last minute of regulation and then in OT, where Giannis,
it's another fourth quarter meltdown. So I want to ask you about this. So Giannis's interview afterwards, and he's like,
I
you know,
fucking hated it. I hated it.
do you want to go for it? Go for it.
Like, yeah, him doing the reporter asking him a fair, legit question. Is this season a failure? Oh, I don't know. Is it a failure that you were the number 1 seed and you lost 4-1? You won 1 game against the 8th seed who
With
lost 2
multiple
of their
fourth quarter
players.
breakdowns. With 2 fourth quarter multiple, and a team that is down 2 guys. Like, come on.
They're down 2 starters. They're playing 12 guys who have never played a playoff game. Okay? And they're going toe to toe with you. And then in the fourth quarter, Giannis is immediately throwing the ball when he gets it so he doesn't have to shoot free throws. Like, he throws the ball almost out of bounds, and then Middleton makes a fucking great save to keep it in bounds.
Diving into the press box.
Yeah.
Or into
I don't
the,
know. I still don't know how he got that ball. That was
I
fucking
don't know.
impressive.
I thought he got his. I honestly, when I watched it, even the first couple of replays, I was like, oh, his foot touched as well, like before he got the ball back in. And then I'm like, oh, wait, no.
But
that was absolutely insane.
That whole sequence only happened because Giannis, and you could see it in his face, you could see it in his posture. He was scared. Like, he was scared to get fouled because
because that's his press conference.
Yeah. And then afterwards, you can tell he's frustrated, but hey, Casino, in sports, are there winners and losers?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you lose the game, guess what?
Yes.
You failed.
Unless you're in like Pee Wee football and everybody gets a trophy.
Yeah. This isn't movies or art where it's subjective. This is the better team winning, then they won. Oops, I knocked over my mic.
He's so angry.
Go into it. Like one of the most asinine responses I've ever heard, where it's like, oh, well, Michael Jordan, he was in the league for 15 years, so he only won 6 championships. So the other years were failures? Yes. Yeah, they were failures. Like, because you play to win the games, as a coach famously said at a press conference. Like, you want to know why in NBA we don't put Steve Nash and Chris Paul and John Stockton and all these other great players in the same conversations as Wilt Chamberlain, as Magic Johnson, as Larry Bird? Because they never won a championship.
Right.
Like, in football, you know why we don't put Jim Kelly right next to Joe Montana? They both went to 4 Super Bowls. What's the one fucking difference? One won all 4, one lost all 4. So we don't put them next to each other. Oh, if only to compare
that's not
who's
daddy.
better and who's not. Like,
that's
Dan
not
Marino, everybody says one of the greatest pure passers in NFL history. You know why he's not in the top 20 of greatest quarterbacks ever? Because he never won a fucking title. It's like, get the fuck out of here.
No, that's daddy. That is my daddy. That's daddy. That's daddy. That's your daddy, and that's daddy.
Casinos. Yeah.
Sorry. So then moving on to the others.
Rant right there.
So yeah, so the New York Knicks, they put down Cleveland pretty easily by 11.
I hated
Golden
that
State
series. Ugh.
Yeah, it's so unforgettable, and now it's done. Good, it's done. The Knicks move on. Golden State did get over on Sacramento. I still think that Sacramento has a chance because I've enjoyed watching almost all those games.
I don't know, man. Tonight's game is
no. They have a chance. I'm not saying they're going to do it. I mean, would I if I had to put money on? Go for it.
Well, remember, the one thing, and I kept saying it, everybody kept saying it, the one thing Golden State can't do is win on the road. And then they go into Sacramento. Sacramento's pretty much in that game the whole time. And then all of a sudden, they have a mini meltdown in the fourth quarter. Golden State almost kind of blows them out. I think that's
fair. So that was
a ball
okay. So that's one game, but I still can think Golden State can fall and they can have a bad game and Sacramento could have a good game. So that's where I'm going, because the offense for Sacramento is just ridiculous. So I'm right there where Golden State, if I had to put money down, if you were saying, hey, life or death, put money down right now, I'd put money down on Golden State to win tonight. But can Sacramento do this? Because Golden State could put up a stinker. Yeah, because Golden State's been a little inconsistent throughout the season for me.
Well, Golden State's going to be at home tonight, so that's why I think
I understand that.
Yeah,
I understand that. But so then you had Memphis, LA. Memphis did push it to its game 6, but I do think LA will take it tonight.
I do as well. I think all the first round matchups will officially be over after tonight. I agree. I agree with you. Warriors and Lakers advance. And then they're going to play each other in the next round, which is going to be a great fucking series.
Right. But then, I mean, something I'm really happy about is Boston ended up finally putting away. I'm not going to even say the Atlanta Hawks. I'm going to say they finally stopped Young.
Yeah.
They finally stopped Trae Young, because that's who won them 2 games was Trae Young.
I mean, that one shot he hit in game 4.
Dude, I love when because as soon as he hit that, you texted me and you were just like, I love the NBA playoffs. And I'm just like, that shot was from midcourt, and I just
and he's not even a great 3-point shooter. This isn't Butler.
It was impressive
or Curry.
though. It was an impressive shot. So no, that was fun. That was impressive. But Boston moves on. So yeah, I think it closes out 2 series tonight, and I don't really have much to say left on it.
So going into the next round, Casino, the matchups are Heat Knicks, which as a second round matchup, I both thought the Bucks and Cleveland would win. So that one is just completely shocking to me. But you're kidding me when you're telling me the next round of the playoffs is Jimmy Butler in Madison Square Garden? Like, fucking the atmosphere in there. If Jimmy Butler has another Jimmy Butler game, which why wouldn't he? Because when he gets to the playoffs, he just becomes fucking Michael Jordan. Like, injected into my blood. And I'm so, like, the Knicks, I fucking hate the Knicks. I'm just going to say it. I hate the Knicks.
I do too.
There's this notion that, like, the NBA is only good when the Knicks are good. I've been watching the NBA for 20 years at this point. The Knicks have never been good, and then NBA has never been better. Like, the fuck are we talking about? Nobody gives a shit about the Knicks. I always love that Kevin Durant thing. I always love that Kevin Durant interview where they asked him, like, when he was going to the Nets or whatever, and he was like, they were like, oh, what's it like going to the New York team that isn't the Knicks? And he was like, I've been an NBA fan my whole life. The Knicks have never been relevant. Like, who cares about the Knicks? Only people who are Knicks fans and in New York care about the Knicks. I've never met someone who's an NBA fan who says literally anything about the Knicks. So great to them for getting to the second round. I do think they can beat the Heat, but then again, I thought the Bucks could beat the Heat. So beating the Heat is, you should beat the Heat. Will you beat the Heat? I don't fucking know. I have no idea who's going to win that series. That one's one of the ones I'm most interested in. Next up, we have Nuggets Suns, which is going to be a real, again, I think all the second round matchups are going to be fucking like amazing matchups who I have no idea who's going to win. I'm assuming the Nuggets could win, but all it takes is one Devin Booker game. All it takes is one Kevin Durant game, even a Chris Paul resurgence. He could easily beat this Nuggets team. I don't know. The Nuggets didn't look like they broke a sweat against the Timberwolves, but again, I don't know what to make of the Joker during playoffs. That's been the whole question mark, right? And then we talked about Lakers, Warriors, potentially if both close out tonight, like just fucking great series, Steph versus LeBron. But then Casino, most pertinent to this podcast, your Boston Celtics against my 76ers. I think your Celtics fucking murder my team. I have no faith in the Sixers.
You're doing the reverse psychology thing again. It's fine. It's okay.
I don't trust playoff James Harden. I thought the Nets were a fraud because they were in the playoffs based on the performance of all players that weren't on that team anymore. So I don't trust the 76ers at all. I'm picking. So if we're just going to do our picks, Casino, who of these last, 6 teams do you think, or no, sorry, 8 teams, who of these last 8 teams do you see in the finals?
I think now with Milwaukee out of the way, I think the Celtics have a good shot of making the finals.
Yes.
And then, man, I really don't know in the West.
The
I don't
West,
know.
I feel like could be. You could make a case for literally any of the teams to
Yeah,
me,
I
and
have
I'd be
no
like,
idea.
"Yeah, you're probably right."
I won't even give one in the West. I just won't. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's still the Celtics coming out of the East, even though I would love to see obviously my Sixers or a Jimmy Butler led Heat who is just doing the impossible and making it to the Eastern Conference Finals again. But I'm gonna go Celtics, and then in the West, I really think it's gonna be fucking Lakers. I really think these finals are
I
gonna
can
be
see that.
Lakers Celtics.
I mean,
I know the league wants
Anthony
that.
Davis has definitely turned his head around, and I think that he's been playing really well, and that's what LeBron needed to win another chip. So
Yeah. Well, then you also have Reeves and
the emergence of Reeves, first
yeah,
off,
Reeves looks, I mean, fucking incredible in each game. And then you also have the Hachimura, who just is real hot or cold, but when he's hot, like, I mean, goddamn. And their defense is just fucking next level. But NBA's getting good. Well, obviously, I think the first round is this weekend. So we'll obviously talk about it on next week's show. But Casino, let's move on to NHL hockey. Playoffs also heating up over there. I think most of
I'm
the
back.
first round.
I'm right. All right, let's do this. Sorry,
All
I had
right,
a Cheerio
most
run
of the first round matchups are gonna end tonight, right? For
for
NHL.
hockey. Yeah. So, yeah, I'll start taking over on that. So I was going to try to talk about some of the stuff. Wednesday, we were going to try to do an extra episode. That's what we told you guys. Sorry that didn't happen. We had some things going on, technical difficulties with our toaster, and I don't know. I want to say I have a toaster. You have a toaster oven, slightly better,
Yeah, slightly, slightly.
slightly.
It can warm bread.
It's okay. He always barks. Love. The wife's trying to get the dog to stop barking. He's practically a co-host, is what BJ said. So it's
Yeah.
great. So Wednesday night, we thought Boston, the crazy good Boston, was going to finally be the first team to stamp their ticket to the second round of the playoffs. They looked fantastic throughout the game. They're outshot their opponents 47-25 for the total game. They just looked absolutely dominant, especially in the second period, in the third period. But somehow the Panthers push it into OT, and
I
they
watched
won
this
an
game.
OT.
This game was fucking
Absolutely
good.
not. Like,
This was a good game.
so this is a bad day for me with sports because I had the Bruins. The Bruins lost. So the Bruins lost. The Red Sox lost. I know it's just early on in the season. We'll get talking baseball later on. Down the line, down summer. And then also my Arsenal lost against Man City. This was just a really bad sports day for me.
So my question to you about this game
What's up?
tonight, they play 4:30 our time. What if the Panthers win this game? What if
Then
it's 3-3 going back into Boston? How worried do you think the Bruins would legitimately be?
not that worried. I'll be honest.
Really?
You're going back to home where you have the best one. Your home record this year was absolutely insane. Playing in front of that town, they will figure it out. They will figure it out. Is it concerning that Florida did beat them? Yes, but they outworked them in that game. They absolutely outworked them in
Yeah.
that game. So I'm not too worried
Well, that was
about Boston.
that was the notable part almost this entire series watching this
And this
watching
is
these
not the
games.
only series where I think that the team that's pushing, and actually the team there's on the next one I'll talk about that's winning the series is the better team. I don't think that's the case. They're just finding ways to win, which I'll tie all that up into where my projections are. But yeah, so then moving on. Okay, what else?
No, I was just gonna say to put a pin on the Bruins Panthers series, what you were talking about. I've watched most of these games, and it always feels like the Bruins are way, way better, and then somehow the Panthers won 2 games. Like, even when you're watching it, you're like, how are the Panthers, how are they doing this almost? Like we talked about with the Heat Bucks game, where it's like the Bucks didn't look bad. The Bucks were doing everything they need to do, and then the Heat still won. That feels like this Bruins Panthers series, where the Bruins are doing everything they should do, and then the Panthers take it to OT and win. And you're like, how? You kind of put your hands in the air. But this series being 3-2, like, kind of shocking.
No, yeah, that's fair. But so you did have Bergeron out, David Krejci out. So you're two for the majority of the series. I mean, Krejci is still a day-to-day, but I mean, you had him out, and those are two big players. One's your captain, and then the other one is a superstar player. So that's, you got to take that into consideration as well. And then the Florida Panthers, they did have a left winger out, but I mean, they have one injury against the Bruins, two top tier guy injury. It's like, so maybe that was a little bit of a contributor, but I didn't think too much. But the next, I didn't mean to have the injury list up. I don't want to keep that up. Going into the next series, one that a lot of people thought, oh, the defending Stanley Cup champions, they're not going to let this team, who's first time getting into the playoffs, stop them with the Seattle Kraken. But I've said it. This is why I was scared to play them the last two games. I've mentioned this before in the regular season, where the Knights were playing them in the last two games. And I was like, don't underestimate this team. These are going to be two tough games. Yes, on the scoreboard, it shows that we dealt with them handily. But I'm watching that game, and the Knights still struggled with the speed and the offensive presence that Seattle had. They're a fast team.
And against this Avalanche team, they've looked fast. Like, they just look, you can see it on the screen. They just look like they're skating circles around the Avalanche.
Yeah, I mean, and it doesn't help that the Avs do have a lot of players out. Josh Manson, Helm, I can never take it.
Do you think?
I know Landeskog has been out, and he won't return for the rest of the playoffs. Like, he's out. So those are some big names for him, but they still have Nathan McKinnon, arguably one of the greatest players in the league right now, and needing to do something and not being able to get it done is a little bit of concern for me. And Seattle's up 3-2 in the series, and that could be one of the games that closes out tonight. And I am going to say it now, I think Seattle takes it tonight. Well, I do. I mean, they're playing back in.
Well, my question.
They're playing back in Seattle tonight, and I think it's done.
My question to you is, do you think all these games, or the majority of these games being so high scoring, has had to do with this kind of rash of injuries that's affecting pretty much every playoff team that's in this hockey playoffs? Do you think the injuries are making it high scoring, or do you think it's something else? Like you were talking about, where it's the parity and it's all these teams being so close skill-wise.
I think it's just the parity, and I just think that the players have gotten. I just think the players have gotten better at. It's an offensive league. Players have gotten faster. Players have gotten more skilled. Yes, I mean, but that's playoff hockey for you. There's injuries all the time in playoff hockey. So I was listening to the Vegas Insider show that we have here in Vegas, and they were talking about Jack Eichel's first appearance in the playoffs. Jack Eichel coming over from Buffalo and being a superstar player who's played somewhere around 480-ish games or whatever it was before he actually got to play a first playoff game. He was just with bad teams, being a superstar player. That what would he have to expect? And they said it perfectly to me, where it was like, it's a bumper car situation. It's the game as normal, but instead of just they're going to kind of be backed off a little bit and just be in your space, they're also going to be tapping with their stick. They're also going to be, pushing you a little cross check in the back, which is not a legal move, but they let players get away with a lot more in the playoffs. Yeah. So it was the best way to say is this is a bumper car situation. So no, I just think that the players themselves are just that good. And I don't think it's anything with doing with bad goalies, because I mean, look what's happening. You have arguably the best goalie tandem in the league in Boston, and they're they've lost 2 games. So
Yeah.
no, to
Also,
answer
I
your
like
question, no, I don't think
this
so.
ASMR kind of smooth talking you're
Yeah,
doing now.
I had to do that. The wife's now taking a very important phone call, so
I mean,
I
I don't know how
had
we're
to
gonna
quiet
do
down.
the rest of the show with your
Yeah.
voice, my open shirt. Everybody's
As
just so turned on,
I'm
they're not even listening.
I'm stealing your move, the sultry tones. Um, but so the other one that I want to talk about was the Tampa Bay Toronto. So we did we did our this is fun. This is how it always ends towards the end of the day. Um, but
For
sorry,
this,
I've lost my train of thought here. No, now I
I
know where I
will
was going.
say, for this Lightning Maple Leafs game, every time
That's
the
where I was
Maple
going.
Leafs, every time the Maple Leafs lose, can Sports Center stop doing the thing where they just show every fan of the Maple Leafs in the fucking audience losing their mind and like crying? I'm
No,
sure
I
the
love it.
guy
I
in the
love it.
Maple Leaf jersey doesn't want to be on Sports Center all
No,
night with fucking
give
tears
me
in his eyes.
give me sad fans. I want that all day. But it's funny because of the Toronto the Toronto Maple Leafs situation. Hi, honey, is they haven't won since I think it was 67. And they haven't won a first round. Like they showed the list and it was just like, hi, honey. It was like 20 first round matches that they've
Well,
lost.
they
It's
also showed
hysterical.
that thing yesterday where it was like their records in closeout games. And since 2012, it was like 2012 to last year, and every single one of them was
Oh
a
yeah.
loss.
Oh yeah.
Like,
It's really bad. So Tampa Bay, and that's as I said, I was going to touch on this later. That's the series. I think Tampa Bay has outplayed Toronto in the majority of these games, but Toronto is finding ways to win. They're finding ways to win. Would I be shocked if Tampa wins after they won yesterday? If they come back and they win 2 games straight? Not at all. I wouldn't be surprised at all. And it would be a very Toronto thing to do to lose closeout games, as you saw on that stat. The fun one, the interesting one though, is the Rangers. The Rangers were up 2-0 over the Devils, and the Devils have won 3 straight. And they did in solid fashion, 4-0 in the last game. This is just getting absolutely fantastic. Hi.
Anybody listening to the audio, Casino's daughter is not right up against the mic, despite what you're hearing. She's across the room.
Oh, no, she's right here now. Are you gonna sneeze now? Okay, God bless you.
Make sure she sneezes directly into the mic.
Right. And so the last series, so Minnesota Dallas, that's still been a fun one. That's one of my favorite series to watch, just with how close these two teams have been. But last night, the team that a lot of players thought was going to be the series that went 7 is the first series, and me included, is the first series to get stamped. Golden Knights move on to the next round, and I love it because they did it with 2 defensemen out, which was huge, in Brayden McNabb, and then they also had Theodore out, and they had to put in backups. But that's what's been so great about this team. And this is what I think this team has been overlooked, and not me just being a biased fan, has been overlooked the entire season, and why they got the number 1 overall Western seed is that they are so deep, and even with their injury list that they've had, they have shown up with depth, and it didn't even look like those guys were missed because Carrier came back in, and he hasn't played for a while. He's the last big name coming off of injury. Okay, I'll get you some more in a minute. He came back off of injury.
The impressive part of this game to me, which is a game I watched most of, the impressive thing in the Knights-Jets game was that the Jets went empty net for, I think they started with 8 minutes left in the third period, and then they got I muted you, Casino, sorry. But no, I was telling them the impressive thing to me was the Jets going empty net for 8 minutes left in the third period. And then they got that 1 goal that got called back. And then the Knights just held them basically the entire time around their goal for 8 minutes, even a shot wasn't even close.
So to finish up on that is it's crazy because Connor Hellebuck is one of the greatest goalies in the league, and Vezina candidate, Vezina trophy winner, and we made him look. We made him look like he was the rookie. Like he's the one that's never won a playoff series. And then Laurent Brossoit, just absolutely, he had a phenomenal save after the Knights scored. I think it was their third. Came out, made a really good save as he was sliding to his right, but hits it and it bounces back right in front of the net. Guys trailing in, so he had to try to dive back, and he dove back and barely got his glove on it. He looks a very confident goalie for a goalie that's never won a playoff series, and his only other playoff experience was with the Winnipeg Jets as he came in relief where they lost 7-0 to the Sharks a while back. And so that's his only playoff experience. So he's looked fantastic. It's great for him to get the win. But I think most important is Vegas. They were able to rest a few players that needed some rest. They're on the injured list, and one of them was a healthy scratch, but they're trying to rest some players that are starting to show injury instead of playing them. And they still closed out, which was huge. The Knights, I think, closing out was huge because I still don't know what's going to happen with this Edmonton Kings series, because this series can honestly go 7, in my opinion. It's fantastic.
Also, again, not being biased as a Golden Knights fan myself, but the most impressive thing was, remember in game 1 of this series, they got their absolute fucking dicks kicked in, right? They got blown
I think
out
that was a lot.
first game.
I think that was a lot that had to do with you brought in some players that haven't played in a while together. You put some lines back together that haven't played well together or haven't played in a while together because you have people coming back from injury. And, that was a big gamble where you pull back Mark Stone back out of injury, and you put him back. First game back since like January was in the playoffs, first game of the playoffs, and he struggled.
That's even more impressive to get everything on track after one bad game.
Well, a lot of these guys are, because they're buying into Bruce Cassidy's systems, and that's the one thing that I don't think people understand, and this is why Vegas is, I think, will have trouble getting through the Western Conference because they struggled in the West. But if they can get to the Stanley Cup final, I think they could win this year because they're really good against the East. Bruce Cassidy knows that team, knows those teams over there, and he's very good at putting players, and this whole team's finally buying in at the right time, buying into his system. Because before the All-Star break, they started to break down a bit. After the All-Star break, they started doing what is Bruce Cassidy's style of defense, pushing players out wide. Don't give them a shot down the middle. Let your goalies see these high percentage shots where coming in as shots, but not high scoring chance shots, but high percentage shots, like amount of shots taken. And there's a lot of games that the Knights have won where, as Bruce Cassidy was saying, they're not the most extravagant games. They aren't doing well on the penalty kill or the power plays, blah, 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 but they find ways to win because they stay in games. So I think the Knights are a very scary team. Again, that's not me trying to be a biased Knights fan. I just like how they play. And that's where I was listening to the announcers last night, and they're like, a lot of players, or a lot of people were kind of writing you guys off. Like, what was going on? They're like, well, we're a deep team. We're following a system and it's working. Nobody. There's a great interview, because obviously I'm a Knights fan. I've watched more interviews for the Knights. White Cloud last night had a great one where he's talking about he had to work more minutes. He had to play some more minutes. And he's like, I can play more minutes. I can play less minutes. I don't care. He goes, I can be benched. It doesn't matter because they're a team, and they're a deep team with probably 2 players in every position that can come and fill in and be top-notch guys, because they've all been doing it throughout the season, and they all fall in the same system, and they buy into it, and it's working. So they're playing really good team hockey, and I like it. That's why I think they win. And I mean, as you said, they got completely throttled in game 1. So,
well, not only that, but with how much like how we were talking about the NBA playoffs, like the NHL playoffs right now just feel so wide open, especially with, we thought the Bruins would dominate, and even they've looked like they have a couple chinks in their armor. So with the parity in the league of how similar all the teams are playing, and we see it with how high scoring all these games are, both the NBA and NHL playoffs, you can make a case right now for any team to win it, right? And I would listen to you. I'd be like, yeah, like that's a compelling case. I can't argue against it. But with that out of the way, we are going to end it right here unless you got anything else you want to talk about.
I gotta go. I just actually messaged you saying I gotta go.
Yeah, but we're gonna start doing the 2 shows on Monday, Thursday. Those just work better for us,
and 95% of the time that's going to be the case.
Yeah, exactly. But so we'll see you Monday. We'll talk about the end of the draft, the continuation of the NHL and NBA playoffs as those both those leagues go into the second round. I've been Will. That's Casino over there. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music.
We want to know what we're doing right, what you like, what you don't like. Help us out. Help us out. Let's go. Also, if you want to sponsor and get us a brand new shiny toaster and a brand new shiny toaster oven, let us know.
And I was telling Casino about this before the episode started. For some reason, I don't know why our last episode, both podcast and YouTube, is like our most listened to episode ever. And it's only been up
that was
for
one of my worst
48
episodes.
Hours. Yeah, that was a bad
awful.
episode. This has been a good episode. So listen to this one if you like the last one. Yeah, but like, comment, leave us a rating, whatever. But yeah, we'll see you Monday. I'm Will. That's Casino. This has been the Only Sports Podcast. Adios.